Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Tuesday and the patch notes for patch 7.8 have just been released, and that means it's time for another patch note rundown. As always, I'll be going through the biggest or most important changes in the patch and letting you guys know what you should be looking forward to when the patch goes live tomorrow. 7.8 was actually pretty small as far as patches go, and that's because there's going to be a really big patch coming up with a mid-season update fairly quickly here. So just a few changes, so this shouldn't take very much time. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. Starting with Aatrox buffs. I didn't mention this in my podcast on Monday, but he is due for a few more changes. Aatrox top is doing pretty well, but jungle Aatrox is pretty terrible, and that's because he can't keep Bloodwell stacked. He gets Hellbent, he uses it for the second and a half or so it stays active, and then he has to restack it, and it makes his clears absolutely terrible. So it's being changed. Hellbent now refreshes itself on monsters, and it gives more attack speed than before while it's active. Additionally, Aatrox's Bloodthirst heal has been increased a little bit. So Aatrox is a little bit stronger than it was before, and Jungle Aatrox might actually be a thing again. I'll have to go ahead and give that a try going forward. Next up, Amumu. He had a mini rework of sorts in the last patch to be more of the tank you pick when you have a lot of magic damage, because Cursed Touch increases magic damage. However, the way it worked wasn't quite how it appeared to work on paper, because it applied true damage post-mitigation instead of pre-mitigation, and there were some weird expectations not lining up. So they changed how it works. So now Cursed Touch, it does less damage, but it does it pre-mitigation. So effectively, the numbers are about the same. And then Despair does less damage per second, but again, that's part of the following changes with how Cursed Touch works. So overall, it's basically just a clarity thing across the board for Amumu. Next up, Ivern. He's got like a 60% win rate or something. He's really, really strong now that people have figured out how to play the champion. And he just has a lot of utility. So Riot are trying to cut down on his utility, starting with some of the more egregious examples. For example, Brushmaker can no longer conceal epic monsters. You can't just put a bush on top of Baron and prevent the enemy team from ever being able to steal it. That's not a thing you can do anymore. That's been nerfed now. So it reduces Ivern's utility in a good way. Now, Ivern can still place Brush across the entrance of the pit to block vision that way. You can't see it through a bush, so that works how Brush normally does now, but it means that wards in the back of a pit you will be able to see Baron through. So I do like the change. I think it's a good change, and it reduces Ivern's power in a decent way. Whether or not it's enough for him, we'll have yet to see. Next up, Shen. Shen is very, very good in organized play, especially professional play. I think he's pretty much pick or ban, but he's pretty good, he's pretty balanced in casual play, I should say. And most importantly, aggressive uses of Stand United are really the biggest problem. Most people in casual and solo queue will not play with Shen's ultimate as an initiation tool. Instead, they'll just use it as a last-second save tool. So Riot are trying to find a way to nerf pro Shen, but keep casual and solo queue Shen the same. So, accordingly, Stand United now has a longer cooldown overall, and the shield strength scales with the target's missing health. So effectively, a low health target will get a massive shield, while a high health target won't get very much of a shield. So Shen's ult is worse when used as an aggressive tool, and better when used as a savior tool, as is really intended. Shen also lost some damage off of Twilight Assault. It now does much less bonus damage on the empowered auto attacks. But to compensate, Shadow Dash now has a lower energy cost, and the hitbox is slightly wider. Thank God, I know we've all been waiting on that. So overall, I feel like Shen is a bit weaker with these changes, and we'll see if it has any effect on his professional play rate. Finally, for champion changes, is Udyr. Udyr's been on the patch notes for a while, and the biggest problem with Udyr right now is you pretty much play Tiger Stance Udyr or Phoenix Stance Udyr. You don't play Udyr that uses both. And that's kind of crappy when you have an entire ability that you just don't use until the end of the game. So Riot are attempting to make Tiger Stance and Turtle Stance specifically being stances that you're more likely to use and stay in, as opposed to just swapping them when you want more movement speed. So, ability costs are generally reduced across the board, scaling up with champion level. And then, additionally, Tiger Stance now no longer applies the dot on every auto attack. It just applies the dot on the first attack after you transform, and every third auto attack afterwards. Turtle Stance works in a similar way. It no longer gives just flat lifesteal while you're in Turtle Stance, but it gives you a heal based on your missing health on the first auto attack after transform, and then every third attack afterwards. So we'll see how this is going to work going forward. I think it's a decent change for Udyr, but really I'm not a big Udyr expert, so if any of you guys are Udyr players, let me know what you think of the changes down in the comments below. Finally, we have a couple of changes aimed at Howling Abyss and Twisted Treeline. I'm not a big player of these maps, so you'll have to go ahead and, if any of you guys play Howling Abyss or Twisted Treeline, you might want to take a look at the patch notes and then see exactly what's getting changed. But Howling Abyss changes were generally aimed at reducing the average length of ARAMs, so you gain experience more quickly, especially after you've died. Towers are slightly less tanky, super minions are better at closing out games. The idea is to reduce the amount of time ARAMs take because they're supposed to be a shorter game mode. Twisted Treeline have changes aimed at reducing the strength of the duo plus top laner meta, trying to get it back to 1-1-1 and more a parity as 1-2. And then also reducing the ability for teams to stall out games. Vilemalt is a little bit easier to take. Towers take a little more damage. Minions are better at taking towers. All that kind of thing. So you guys can go ahead and delve into the patch notes, which will be down in the description below if you want to read the full changes for these maps. I'm not really qualified to comment on them, but I figured I'd leave it down there for you. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today. Go ahead and let me know what changes you guys thought were most important down in the comment section below. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you really like the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.